Cybersecurity Refined and Feral, where refinement meets chaos in the digital wilderness. We will bring you perspectives from a seasoned professional and another with 5 years of experience. Join us while we discuss the challenges of our profession from multi-generational views with unique mother-daughter conversations.
Hello and welcome to Cybersecurity Refined and Feral. I'm Cailin Sullivan.
And I'm Candy Alexander. We're so glad that you're here. I must say, Cailin and I are like super excited about this new project that we've got kicked off. This is actually episode 3, so we're kind of like really hyped up on this whole project and the idea. We've got lots of things coming our way, lots of topics. So as always, we'll welcome your topics that you'd like us to cover as well. But one of the topics that we're covering today is the whole topic of the work-life balance. Let's face it, we all face that challenge of balancing our work and then, how do we have a life, whether it's social, family, whatever. I can say through my 30-something years career that as a single mother, I had a huge challenge with this. Like, how do I, give it all to my day job, giving again, being a female. And when I first started, I was like the only female in the whole group. So, really felt like I needed to prove myself even more. So how do I do that and still be a mom and still have a social life? Because let's face it, sanity does call for some downtime. So again, everybody actually who works in cyber has this challenge. So we figured we'd take this challenge on today and talk about it, not just from me being old school perspective and what it was like for me. And I still am challenged with this, but also from Cailin's perspective, from a younger generation and coming in, and are there any changes that we've experienced over the years? Wouldn't that be nice? But love to hear what you all think too. So feel free to put in comments into the comment area below, and let's tackle this. So let's get this started. Cailin, again, we all face this challenge in cyber especially. So what are some of the challenges that you've seen and observed in our profession and working in it?
Definitely that people struggle with the work-life balance. I particularly, if I'm offline, I'm offline unless something is like life or death, which not everything is. Value my PTO, take my PTO. A lot of people around my age definitely like block off their calendar for like heads down work, for lunch, for non-meeting times, and to get work done. So I think from my perspective, I see a lot of the younger people enforcing those boundaries, where if I'll get a message at 9 o'clock, if it's not important, I'm not responding. Now, that's all put in perspective of like it's end of quarter or end of year, and sales has a questionnaire that they need to get in last minute as like a fire drill. Like, obviously, depending on the size of the deal, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm not working right now, so leave me alone, please. Something that I noticed from you when I was growing up was you were busy all the time, and stressed out about work a lot of the time. So I can only imagine being a single mom and having to do about your work-life balance. Like, what were some of the strategies that you used?
I didn't, obviously.
Yeah.
And I still struggle, and that's why I'm sitting here laughing, because
Mm-hmm.
I really like the word you use, boundaries. I have
Mm-hmm.
no boundaries. It's like job is first. It's my generation, because I am almost, I think there's a little half step there, but generation before me was the greatest generation ever, where, it's like you just suck it up, buttercup, and, go for what needs to be done for the team, for the company, for the
Mm-hmm.
job. Above all, like they would crawl to work,
Yeah.
I mean, literally crawl to work to get the job done. And I think that perhaps is a sign of what they lived through, like World War II and post World War II era, where it was a do or die, for the country, for God and country and,
Yep.
and company. And so I was brought up on those values. And to that, I really was working to do the impossible, to do a full time job in a field that was not friendly to somebody who was not necessarily educated, especially not females. I say that with a joke because I think back to the guys I worked with, and I absolutely have the fondest memories of them treating me like their little sister.
Yep.
But I was fortunate. There's a lot of, what they did, to tease me and give me a hard time. I know it was not malicious. And I know there were others in, my era that it was malicious. It's like,
Yeah.
knowing that you're a single parent, it's like, well, pick one. You should be home, cooking supper, making beds, and taking care of the babies. And it's like, didn't have that choice. Not that I
Yeah.
would have, clearly, but it was difficult and it was nearly impossible. When I look back, and I feel bad you saying that I was always busy, but I really, really tried to.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Now you're gonna make me cry. No, just
Oh my
kidding.
God. Lock it up.
But so with some of the strategies, I didn't have strategies. I just went
Yeah.
110% all the time. And we have these conversations all the time. This is one of the reasons why we started this podcast, because we would have these, self-help discussions where you would tell me, Mom, block your calendar for lunch, do this, do that. To this
Mm-hmm.
day, I still work, a solid 9-10 hours straight. I am tied to this desk, to this video, with
Mm-hmm.
my Zoom meetings and calls and this and that. And it's overwhelming, even after all these years. It's a good thing I love what I do, because
I think you brought up a really interesting point too about the cultural norms at the time back in the Greatest Generation, tying that into World War II, and like that's a time when the nation was kind of looked at as a collective, right?
mhm,
So
yeah.
we're moving towards a even more individualistic view on culture and society. Whereas that big events like that may have American culture come together. So that's a really
But
interesting point.
But, you want to talk about cultural events that shift our society to a new position of thinking, and that was COVID. Because, I
Yeah.
mean, we can all collectively agree that with COVID, it was like a reality slap, that being able to work from home, gee, that's kind of nice. I can, like, for my coffee break, go throw a load of laundry in, or even better yet, I can at my coffee break take a walk outside and enjoy the day for 10 minutes. Where when you're in an
Yeah.
office, what are you going to do? Go out to a hot top parking lot and take in the view? I
Yeah.
mean, so COVID really did make us realize a few things: that life's too short. Work is not our life. We don't live to work. We work to live.
Yeah. I would almost say that too, COVID kind of, with all the remote work, productivity went up in a lot of companies because there wasn't that boundary set for Okay, I'm done working. I work remotely at a fully remote company. And it is kind of hard to distinguish boundaries as far as time. Um, but I'm still pretty adamant about if I'm off the clock, please don't bother me.
Yeah, but, sometimes, especially in the job that we work in, let's shift this up and be real.
Hmm.
And this has always been the case, whether you work remote or not. And that's just the fact that we are in cyber. If something happens,
Yep.
you're called in. I mean, again, I don't know. I'm sure you do recall when I was a systems manager at Digital Equipment, and I'd had to wake your little sleepy self up and say, "Come on, Cailin, grab your little backpack and coloring books. We're going into the office at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, so I could go
Hmm.
and reboot servers and VAX clusters and stuff." Um,
Yeah, I remember those cold, cold, cold server rooms. They were
yeah,
loud.
yes, they were. But that hasn't changed just because we're home now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are on a first response team, 7/24/365, you're there. Like I remember a couple of years ago being involved in an incident response, which I had to facilitate, that consumed 2 weeks of my life. And that really, you know, uh, I'm not going to lie, I'm human. I was really upset with that because I had taken time to come down here to Florida, and I really look forward to, spending time at the new house and setting it up, but I couldn't. I was here in the new house, stuck in front of this darn video camera on, Zoom calls all day long, trying to figure out how we're going to mitigate, contain and mitigate and all that other stuff. So just because we're remote doesn't mean, to your point, there are no real boundaries. You're home, they figure, oh, you're there, just log in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then with always being on call, there comes with stress from that too. Um, like, am I gonna get a call? So,
Yeah, I'm always thinking, um, even now, it's like, okay, we're recording this during, the upcoming Christmas season of 2024. And it's like, I'm thinking, okay, let's just pray to the security gods that there are no, things going to be going down, let's do, some sacrificial PC burning out in the yard or something. I don't know.
right?
Yeah, but I mean that's always the case. So the thing is that ironically enough, back in the day you would get comp time. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, you worked your butt off for 2 straight weeks, like 18, 20 hours a day. So why don't you take 2 days off and enjoy yourself or whatever? And that's not necessarily the case anymore.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. And because like a lot of companies are short staffed, they might not have the ability to do that, which is going to lead to burnout.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it does lead to burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So again, it's like, what is that magic formula, right? Because I
Mm.
mean, again, the whole statement is not work life balance, but life work. And then the key word is balance. How do you balance that out, especially when you have, limited resources in your organization and it's just you? What do you do? I mean, how do you even begin to have that conversation with leadership of like, gee, I would really like it, some me
Yeah.
time once in a while, and then them not understanding because it's like, what do you mean? So like, I don't know. Have you ever had that conversation with leadership or your management?
I thankfully have always had managers who like work-life balance is like a priority for them.
Hmm.
Janine Goudreau over at Carbonite was my director of InfoSec, and she was always like, you come first. Like, your time comes first. If you are sick, like,
Right.
don't come in. If you need time off, like, take it. Like, don't not take time off. And my current manager now is kind of the same way. So
Yeah.
I've been pretty fortunate because
I
I know
think,
there's a lot of people out there that their
right.
managers don't care.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's generational too, because,
Yeah.
people my age are like, well, do the job, suck it up. And I know that a lot of companies now, thankfully, are recognizing the value of reinvesting into their people. And how do you do
Hmm.
that? By making sure they're healthy, not just in the physical, but the emotional and psychological aspects as well.
Yep.
So I think um, I think that there needs to be more emphasis on that with some folks my age, in my age group. And that, if you're listening to this, and you might want to, you know, take note of that one if you're my age, mature, so shall we say. But I think you have to really pay attention to your people, because I don't think management really does, or your coworkers always do. Like, if you're getting grumpy, yeah, maybe you didn't get a good night's sleep. Or if you're continuously getting, I don't want to say to the extent of disgruntled, but if you're getting grumpy a lot and short and impatient and or whatever with people,
I call it spicy.
well,
If I'm getting spicy with people, like,
yeah, or
normally I'm
sass,
very patient.
whatever. But
Yeah.
yes, but I guess my point is that that should be an indicator. Go
Yeah.
and try to have a conversation. Is everything okay? And to have it be judgment free, or have that be a
Yes.
safe place conversation, that, gee, Cailin, noticed you're getting a little spicy. You okay? And
No.
it'd be okay for you to say no. And then that conversation, once you recognize, just like anything, right? You need to recognize what it is, and then you can address it together, right? So recognize you're spicy, and what is it we can do? That should be the next question. What can
Yes.
we do? We do, not,
Yeah.
well, smarten up, Cailin.
Yeah.
Even though, as your mom, I'd
I've
say
actually,
that's funny.
so yeah, I've actually had a couple of instances where um my manager has been like, "So how's things going? Is there any bad things going on?" And I've been like, "Whoa, you're opening up a can of worms." And he's like, "Okay, what's going on? Like, we can talk about it." Then we talk about it, and he's like, "Okay, so here's, like, I understand that's frustrating for you. Like, here's some solutions that maybe we can implement to make it better." Um, but I think there's a difference between managers who have the soft skills to lead people like that and managers that don't, right? So all your leaders should be able to have empathy and people management skills rather than just technical skills.
Well, now that opens up another big can of worms. Agreed, because and it's a cultural thing. And
Mm,
I say all of this because I think back, again, working at Digital Equipment. That was a company that was way ahead of its time. We had so many soft skill training programs like diversity. They were doing diversity back in the late 80s. I mean, really,
mm,
who ever thought of that? And it wasn't diversity in gender or nationality or race or whatever. It was in personality types. Go figure.
yeah.
Being an engineering company. It
Yeah.
was brilliant though, because, and that's probably where, let's go down this rabbit hole just for a second. It's probably why I think of diversity in regards to personalities as opposed to gender, race, or whatever, right? It's about people just getting along and recognizing. It almost goes to that analogy of, like, you look at any organization and you can spot the characters of Gilligan's Island, right?
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, you never heard that? Yes, you've got
No.
a skipper. There's always somebody who's a skipper, and then you got a little buddy, Gilligan. There's always a little clown that always tries to make everything right and like, does everything the skipper tells him to do. You have a professor that knows it all. You have a Marianne, who's sweet and innocent and naive. You have a Ginger who is like the, center of attention, and all that. And then, of course, you have Mr. and Mrs. Howell that are the real, other interesting, characters that bring a different perspective from class or whatever. So you really, So that's my definition.
I like to think of it, I like to go off of Silicon Valley and those personality types.
Love that show. That's because of the profession we work in technology.
Yes.
Love Silicon Valley. I was just actually talking about that yesterday when we were talking about AI and people getting emotionally attached and whatnot. So, of those of you in our audience that haven't watched Silicon Valley, you gotta go and watch those episodes because it is us. It really is. Love it. But we digress. So back to again, digital and soft skill training for managers and or the culture, right? They did recognize that and that it was important. Employees were made to feel important, that what their happiness were going to sustain the company, because when happy employees really dig in and really work hard and meet their objectives, as opposed to the taskmasters where you just get in and do it and do your job. That's why you're here. That's why you get paid. That does not.
No, that does the exact opposite for me. I'm like, oh, nope, you told me I need to do something. Oh, I physically can't do it now.
Really? I've never seen that side of you before. Cailin, clean your room.
Don't tell me what to do.
Oh my God, let's not even go there. But I think that's fair enough, is that it's assumed nowadays, right, that people know how to handle these situations of somebody who's getting burnt out and overstressed, and that that's why I think we owe it to ourselves to also find a way to have this conversation with your managers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can be very unhealthy, because your emotional and psychological health can most certainly have an impact on your physical health, and we do not want people to get there. And so again, how do we go back and have that life work balance? I'm still trying to figure that out, obviously, and I think as a collective we are as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would have to say that my work-life balance is okay, but my life balance is a little crazy. Just because, yes, just because, like, I'm going to school, working full time. I have my horse I need to take care of. I am doing the ISSA stuff. Now I'm doing this podcast. So, like, as much as I do criticize you, I am your daughter. Because I'm like, if I'm bored, I'm going to get in trouble. So we better find something to work on.
You raise a good point, because, of course, again, same story, right? Just up a generation. I remember, being on the ISSA International Board for 20 some odd years, and, really traveling once a quarter for those board meetings, this, that, and the other. And then, of course, I didn't just sit on the board. I had to do things like committees and work, and then there was work, and then, whatever. And then I remember my husband saying, you bring this all on yourself. And so how much of that is true? I think, we talk about, if like the first part of our conversation is out of our hands, it's the job, it's the job. But now I'm still hearing my husband, like in my ear, you bring this on yourself. So how much of that is true?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a part of it might have to do with like us being ADHD or ADD because we need like or like the
Really?
dopamine
Yeah.
for like brain regulation. I don't
I,
gotta stay busy.
I don't like that word regulation. That's my little bit of chaos, okay?
Yes. So I think it might be part of it is brain chemistry and dopamine chasing as far as being able to complete tasks that you're hyper focused on,
Yeah.
which is stuff, everything that I'm involved in is stuff that I'm interested in. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do any of it, right? Um, so
Well,
I think,
you bring up a good point too, because when we look at the profession, right? Those research surveys that I did with John Olsick in ESG and ISSA talk about like not enough, so let's take that project on. Um, that always pointed out that one of the biggest characteristics of people in cyber is our passion.
mm,
And so, to your point, if you're passionate about something, how can you say no to it? And whether it's the
yeah,
job requirement or it's extracurricular activities or whatever. I mean, how many people do you know in this profession that you've talked to, in technology in general, actually, that you've talked to? Hello, oh yeah, I've got a network in my house.
yeah,
And this is before smart houses were a thing. It's like, oh yeah, I got everything's routed, and I got like
yeah. I
four.
got my home lab and my cyber range set up, and I'm like, whoa, I want to do that too. New hyper focus.
So yeah, I mean, we're passionate, and so how do you? I, th- I think it really comes down to self recognition.
Hmm.
We are our own worst enemies sometimes, and
Yeah.
that. And I know I've had these conversations with myself, just saying that. You know, again, when my husband Steve would say, "You bring this on yourself," but do I? Oh my goodness, I think I do. And you know what? The next conversation is, it's okay, but you got to recognize that it was your choice to bring this all on. So I think, when we talk about degrees of life work balance and the imbalance of that, I think we need to probably compartmentalize or categorize, almost like, go and make a list of the things that you're doing and recognize, is this voluntarily my choice to do
Hmm.
on my list? Does it, almost like, does it bring me joy?
Yeah, Marie Kondo. Yeah. Does this spark joy? If not, then donate it to someone else.
Unless, of course, that you get paid for it. And I enjoy
Hmm.
getting paid, I'll tell
Yeah,
you, right?
it's nice, right?
It helps. It helps. Um, but I think it's almost like doing an inventory,
Yeah.
right?
And setting up boundaries, recognizing that you are doing this to yourself, but then also taking the extra step to recognize, like, I should probably take a break. Maybe instead of the 5 different categories of life tasks, I'll do 3 today, right?
So how do you, because the other fear is, and I was just thinking when you were saying it is like, how do you know when it's gotten out of hand? And I'm laughing because we all work from home, and it's like, okay, when you're sitting in front of your screen and you're doing Zoom calls and you haven't gotten dressed yet, there's a sign that you're probably out of balance, right? And you probably
Well,
need to, reel that in Um,
I wear pajama pants all day long. From here up,
that's why I'm
professional.
laughing. But I mean,
Are you trying to call me out?
no, no, I'm just like just trying to understand when it is it going to be like an issue, and who's it an issue for? Because that's the next question, right? I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
all we're making light of it, but really and seriously, when it goes back to being spicy, when your coworkers are recognizing, dang, Cailin's getting really spicy, and then they start, you become a problem,
Yeah.
you know, then it's an out of balance situation. So then,
Yes.
whether it's you sitting down with your manager or you sitting down, hopefully before it gets to that part and really making that list and say, okay, let's look at what this is, because it really goes back to the time management
Mm-hmm.
conversations of, so many years ago. Like, okay, let's take a look at your calendar. Let's look at your tasks. What do you need to do? And what, prioritization. And I think when we talk about balancing, getting into balance again, that when we weigh the prioritization of things, that our sanity and joy of life needs to be a priority as well. To
Mm.
your
Yep.
point of, mark your calendar, mom, that you will take a lunch, and then don't sit at your desk and have lunch. Get up, walk around, go outside, get fresh
Mm-hmm.
air. Those simple little things are
Yep.
huge.
Yep. Yeah. Calling
Okay.
yourself out?
Yes, I think I was. Can you tell? A big sigh. It's
Nah.
funny because even preparing right before we started recording this, I mean, you were saying you're running around like a crazy woman all morning, and
That's
whatnot.
me.
Just even taking a deep breath and releasing it every once in a while.
Mm.
I think another point too is the meditation, right? Because I've done that as well. Like when things get really stressed at work, or I'm like getting really spicy or sassy, it's like step away, go to a nice quiet place,
Mm.
close my eyes, take a deep breath, and just stay in that state for even 3-5 minutes. It's amazing how much you can bring your blood pressure down, your psyche, and everything else. And I think
Mm.
even those little tips help.
Yeah. I think there might be people out there wondering, like, oh, but like, what if I can't? What if my company doesn't like respect my boundaries or my time off requests, like whatever? Then that's like a sign that you need to find a new job.
Yes, agreed.
You need to value your personal time and boundaries more than they do.
Right.
So, as much, that's like a whole nother topic is like the
Yeah,
state of job searching nowadays. Um,
we'll get into
I
that.
know many people that are struggling. Um, but yeah, if your company, if you don't respect your boundaries, your company nor anybody else is going to respect them as well.
Touche.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, I think we've gone around on that one.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
Take a lunch.
Oh, look at that. No, just kidding. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Well, I hope that our listeners have picked up one or two tips. As you can tell, we do like to laugh because laughter is another form of release and medicine. So, take a moment, enjoy your day, and get into balance. Um, and with that, we'll go ahead and close out this podcast. But we do ask you to like and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, take a moment, put in some comments, your thoughts, ideas about whether it was this topic of the life-work balance or any future topics. Again, we started really pushing our announcements on LinkedIn and other social media channels. We're really, really excited about this new project. I think you can tell by now, our whole third episode, we're very informal. We like to keep it real. So with that, I'd like to say that until next time, stay safe, stay refined, but
Don't be afraid to get a little feral.